Breaking right now, the Sussex squad are trying to claim that Meghan Markle is the most bullied woman in the world after a claim about a health scare during her pregnancy.
Another day, another royal scandal. But this one? It's turning heads for all the wrong reasons. Meghan Markle's pregnancy claims are back in the spotlight, and royal commentator P.Dina is calling out what he says are some serious inconsistencies and deception. Here's the deal. Meghan has shared her pregnancy journey everywhere.
Quite
from her Spotify
rightly,
podcast to headline-making interviews.
Doubts about whether she was telling the truth in Confessions of a Female Founder. So, P.Dina, royal YouTube sensation, is with me. We're going to separate the fact from the fiction here, P.Dina. So let's look first at the two relevant clips. First, we have Meghan claiming, I think quite unbelievably, that she had preeclampsia during her pregnancy. It's just odd, isn't it? Just really odd, given you did decide to tell the world about every other little health issue that you claim to have had, but this one you held back. This one you didn't put in spare. This one you didn't put in the Netflix documentary. You saved it for the first episode of a podcast that needs to work. Now, you can imagine the reaction to this. The Sussex squad, the professionals who are on the woke side of the issue, want to turn us asking, I think, completely legitimate questions, given so much about that birth is surrounded in mystery. And P.Dina, we've discussed before that I was onto this at the time of the birth. I put all of those questions to Buckingham Palace. But asking those questions, P.Dina, Team Meghan, the Sussex squad, are now pulling out this line that just makes us bullies and makes her a wronged party. So I'll get you to respond. But first, here's what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, P.Dina. There is so many reasons why we no longer buy what Meghan Markle is telling us. I mean, what about the fact that she said there was a racist within the royal family? And then Prince Harry went into an interview with Woke ITV and said, oh, no, she never said that. Plus, you and I could list off a million other lies. So I'm sorry, to say that simply because we do not buy her narrative now means that we are somehow cashing in on an industry around Meghan is, I'm sorry to use this term, bullshit. It is total bullshit.
She's painted a picture of isolation, stress, and palace drama. But according to P.Dina, that story isn't as airtight as it seems. He's just dropped a new video and he's not holding back. P.Dina says, this isn't just misleading, it's deceptive.
Absolutely. And when I saw her say that, I thought, no, we're talking about Meghan's character. We're calling out her lies. We are making her accountable for the horrible things that she has done to the royal family. This is not hating on a woman. This is calling out problems. This is calling out her lack of character and doing the right thing and then wanting to look like she does do the right thing and wanting to help girls. She is someone that is doing things with no amount of transparency. She does things and we are going to call it into question, as it is our right to do so. That is not hating on a woman. We are making her accountable to explain herself because she lies and she's been caught in lies. And so for this woman to say what she is saying, she totally has drank the Kool-Aid. I'm sorry. She doesn't even understand or even want to understand, well, why are people saying these things about Meghan? Why do I think it's hate when I can tell you it's not hate, but why are people like this towards her? Well, you have to look at the things that this woman has done to understand the narrative. Why would people just come out and hate on someone like Meghan just because? There's no reason just to hate on somebody when they're not doing anything. People are not just hating on people for no reason. I mean, there are people that hate, but they're doing it because they're fed up and sick and tired of this woman lying and getting away with it. And look at how she's treated the family, the royal family. And the one thing that I always try to understand as an American, we have to look at the royal family is the family of the people. This is like the people's family. Yes. So when you do these things against the royal family, you are essentially taking personal shots at the people's family members.
They are us. They are us. And what Meghan is trying to do, and by the way, she barely hid this in the Netflix reality series, is not just say that the royal family is racist, but say that Great Britain is racist. The British people are
Exactly.
racist.
The
And
people.
again, that narrative is so untrue. I mean, look, we totally embrace this woman. You did, I did. There is proof of that. But are we
The
just meant
wedding.
to ignore
Yeah.
bullying? Like, bullying claims, by the way, on both sides of the Atlantic by literally so many
Yes.
staff members. Are we meant to ignore that? Are we meant to ignore brazen lies trying to destroy the late Queen Elizabeth II as she's dying of cancer? Unfortunately, no, we're not going to do that. And I want to read
Right.
out a couple of responses from our crew to this P.Dina. So according to Taz, wrote using the same word as me, actually, people really do lap up her bullshit. No matter how often she's been caught lying, it honestly astounds me. And then you see that the tweet underneath that Taz was referring to saying, Meghan is quite a bully herself. And it's like, that is the point. And we listen to Confessions of a Female Founder, and it's like, no one takes into account that maybe the reason Meghan's projects have been so unsuccessful is because of the way that she treats people. Remember, why did the late Queen, first call out Meghan? It was the way that she was speaking to staff. What Meghan wants is not what she gets. Prince Harry. That's what the late Queen told him in a phone conversation that I first reported, I think, back in 2018. Then the fallout with Catherine, the Princess of Wales, a woman, by the way, P.Dina. I mean, show me examples of Catherine falling out with people, right? Like, she's been in the public eye for how long now? 2 decades? Where is all of the evidence of Catherine falling out with people? Who was the one person she fell out with? The one person. Ms. Markle. Why? Because Ms. Markle was bullying staff at Kensington Palace. And yet we're meant to sit back and almost accept a narrative that is being pushed by the woke part of society that it is Meghan who is being bullied. It is just a joke.
He points to moments in Meghan's podcasts and media appearances where the timelines simply don't add up, like the story of her miscarriage. The details shift depending on which interview you watch, even those dramatic hospital scenes during Archie's birth. He says the public record tells a totally different story.
Can I also say, by the way, when it was Catherine, who I believe was actually the most bullied woman in the world last year, not Meghan, because you remember, P.Dina, everything that happened when actually this poor woman was secretly suffering from cancer, yet the Sussex squad were out trying to say, oh, she'd been secretly killed by William, or it wasn't actually her at the farm shop, or she's really secretly trying to escape the marriage. I mean, there were all of those horrible rumors. And you remember they actually spread into the American mainstream media via the Sussex squad. So there's only one member of the royal family who I believe has been bullied at a grand scale in the past year, and it's Catherine. And not once has Meghan Markle called out the Sussex squad and said, stop.
Right, right. This is somebody that is clearly wanting this to happen. She wants this kind of atmosphere around other people because she's doing it herself. So she's not going to call it out and say stop because she wants it to happen. We've seen the photos of how she's even treated people just in when she's out and about. There's so many videos out there of Meghan being just a mean person. So it's her body language, it's the things she doesn't say, it's the things that she actually does that are reported. This woman has so much evidence around her negative and nasty behavior. Well, of course, people are going to come out and speak out against it. And for this woman to say what she said about it, you know, people bullying her and coming out and saying these things, I mean, it's just a lack of doing your due diligence and homework. I think if you're going to support somebody, if you're really going to speak out in favor of somebody, at least understand what they have done to cause all of this outrage. And to me, it just lacks their understanding of the things that we're talking about because they clearly only want to see one side. They only want to see what people are saying about Meghan. Well, have you ever looked to see what Meghan has done to other people to warrant people to come out and be so critical of her? No, you haven't. So go do your homework before you start saying anything like this and trying to think that you have something relevant to say. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's not relevant. You haven't done your homework.
Yeah, totally. Now, someone who has done their homework, P.Dina, is Canal Citadel. It really is worth just looking at her reaction to this because she's really thought about it, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So she posted on X, Meghan Markle will sit on podcasts and interviews talking about, I had a miscarriage, I had preeclampsia, I had craved Indian food during my pregnancy, I had postpartum depression, the doctor let me bury my dead child after 24 hours, all these tall tales. But there are two questions that every woman who ever gave birth in the royal family can easily answer, but that only Meg is unable to answer. Every royal birth certificate is signed by the team of royal doctors vouching that they have seen the woman give birth and have delivered her baby. It is a rule to be part of the royal line of succession. Yet Meghan Markle is the only wife whose children have a birth certificate that was never signed by any medical doctor. Her so-called birth was redacted without anyone vouching to ever see her deliver the baby. So the two questions are simple. Since she is so talkative about her pregnancies, which hospital did Meg deliver each of her children in? And what doctors can state their license that they delivered her children? Weirdly, these two very simple and easily answered questions by any woman who ever gave birth keep going unanswered for Meghan. It's almost like these pregnancies and births never happened. How so very strange.
P.Dina's biggest accusation, Meghan's using emotional narratives for sympathy, and maybe even profit. In one podcast episode, Meghan talked about feeling unsupported during her first pregnancy, having to travel to royal events against doctors' orders and facing palace criticism.
And my point on this, P.Dina, is that let's remember why we were told at the time Meghan didn't want to be at the Royal Hospital, didn't want the birth signed off by the royal doctor. We were told that it was because, this is the one thing she needs to keep for herself. She's not giving this to the world. Now we're meant to believe that she is prepared to talk about private medical conditions on a podcast with no fanfare. None of it adds up. None of her explanation adds up.
Nothing that Meghan does adds up. And I think this is why she does it, because she knows she can just not say anything. She can just ignore it. And I think the more we dig and find out the truth, the better for the monarchy, because this is not just any woman who has allegedly had this child. This is a woman whose children are connected to the line of succession within the royal family. So we have a right to know. The people have a right to know. And I think the fact that they even were given this huge wedding, they had a lot of things that were paid for by the UK taxpayers. They need to be accountable to a lot of things that are very questionable. And Meghan saying things on her podcast, it just kind of gives more fuel for me and others to say she just says and does whatever she wants and no one's going to make her accountable. To me, I think at some point, if you are going to get any benefits or reap any benefits of your connection to royalty, you need to start being accountable to the people. And that needs to happen sooner than later. And I don't understand for the life of me why it hasn't already happened just yet. But I think the questions are very valid. It's a very real thing that needs to be addressed. And I mean, you think about the history of why it was always seen to view a woman giving birth, because these things did happen. Because your child is in line to the throne, there had to be proof of seeing the birth of the child. And, this was done away with. But I think this is coming back to why it had started in history, because people were bringing babies in bedpans and bringing in children that were not from the woman. And I think this is clearly, in my opinion, a case of that happening. Meghan has done things that are suspect. She says things that don't make sense, that don't line up with the birth, the dates, the contradictions, the non-signing of the birth certificates, the things that were done when the hospital around the birth that people would lose their license over. And this woman doesn't have to account for this. I think there's something just doesn't seem quite right. And we need to get to the bottom of it. I think the UK people would want to know, and they need to.
Well, indeed, because all of this
They're
obviously
right.
went back to James II, didn't it? And it was this
Mhm.
idea that uh, an illegitimate heir had been smuggled in via the
Right.
bedchamber, and that's where it all started. That was at least the rumor that James Francis Edward was not his biological son. But then on the new episode of Confessions of a Female Founder, so we're going to get one of these every week, by the way, P.Dina, like it's meant to be about business, yet actually
Right.
what Meghan wants is headlines. And the MSM totally delivered this week. Headlines about how brave she is opening up again about whatever personal health issue it is, even though we're meant to believe this is the most private woman when it comes to her health. And this week we got it with the miscarriage.
But P.Dina counters with footage and palace records showing Meghan getting the full royal treatment. Pampered, protected and following protocol every step of the way. So what's really going on here?
So the narrative in the MSMP Dinah was all, isn't it great? Isn't she brave that she's opening up about the miscarriage? Whereas for me, I look at it and I think, well, why are you opening up about the miscarriage if your birth of your actual children was something that you wanted to be sacrosanct and not share with the British public, not share with the royal family?
Hmm. I think with Megan, you have to look at what you see her do, what you hear her say. There's always an underlining motive around it. I mean, I thought this was about women in business, steering the conversation towards these personal things. And, the lady she's speaking to, for that matter, would always be, oh, like, oh, you brought that up. Well, oh, we're talking about this. And I think it's Megan just trying to create something that can draw it back to her and not really listen to the woman she's speaking to and understand her business and to understand things that are going to put people in a positive state for once, and to understand about how to grow a business and the pitfalls and all these things. But Megan is so consumed once again to talk about herself when she's trying to make people think that she's trying to help them around learning around business and entrepreneurship. And it's just a lie. Megan, her underlining motive is always not really what she's trying to say or want people to believe, but it's about her. And this woman, and this is why she gets so much negativity, I think, towards herself, because we see what she's doing. Why would you even bring this up? Why, when you want to be so secretive about things, would you even say this? Why are you steering the conversation around something that is not empowering for other people to hear about business? I mean, Megan has done so many things that are not legit in terms of what she's trying to make people believe, and that is not empowering people to understand business. I just have a problem with Megan always doing these underhanded little digs and trying to make it about her, and it's not relevant and it's so left field. And why are you talking about such personal things? And would this woman even want to talk about things that were in her diary? I mean, you're bringing out things that this woman has to respond to in a positive way and answer your question. But I think it's not okay what Megan does to even the people she's interviewing. She needs to set the record to what she's supposed to be talking about. It's about business and helping other people, but she doesn't. And so all the people that are talking about how Megan gets all this flack, this is a great example as to why she does. She's not being legitimate and she's not being authentic, excuse me, about what she's speaking about. And I just have a problem with women trying to say they want to help women when they're really not trying to help women. You're trying to bully and make people feel sorry for you and lie and misrepresent and be secret. I mean, Megan is truly the worst of them all. She really is. And
And
when
shut down
people do
free
the
speech.
homework,
too. Shut
Yeah,
down free speech. Free
absolutely.
speech for me, but not for thee. You know, you can say anything if you're Meghan Markle. No one is able to ask a single thing. No one's able to ask, well, why is this inconsistent? Where is the medical evidence? You've lied about this, and this. So we're not just going to accept this new lie. But no, if you're in the woke mainstream media, you just have to take everything she
Take it
says
in.
and churn
Hmm.
it out. And
Yeah.
actually, that's had so much damage. You know, it has done so much damage to the British royal family. It did so much damage to the late Queen Elizabeth II. And that's why I'm proud about the fact that we won't just do that. We will analyze, we will
Right.
try and get to the truth, and we will pick holes apart in her lies, which unfortunately is very necessary. There was another really interesting part of the podcast this week, P.Dina, that I wanted to play you, and it's when she's talking about parenting. And to me, this was actually probably the most revealing moment of the podcast. Now, she thinks she's been very clever because she starts the clip talking about, oh, I just love being a mum. You know, it's the best thing. It's all I want. It's everything to me, which is the lie. Then by the end of the clip, you see her truth, her reality, which is that actually, despite living in a mansion with 16 bathrooms, despite having nannies and all of the help that mere mortals could only dream of when it comes to parenting, for Meghan, it's very overwhelming. She does struggle as a mother. And so I just wanted you to listen to this, P.Dina, and I'm interested to see if you picked up the same thing that I did.
Is Meghan's story her truth, or is P.Dina exposing some royal smoke and mirrors? I want to hear from you. Are you buying P.Dina's receipts, or is this just more noise in the royal war zone? If you're done with the media circus and want real talk, hit that subscribe button. No spin, no gloss. Just facts, receipts and honest opinions. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get into it.